The midnight hour is upon us. It's time once again for two internet strangers to discuss the good and evil of the horror genre. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the terror within the Hallow-Holics Anonymous podcast.
Can somebody pass the tomato juice?
Stupid to have tomato juice at a poker game, if you ask me.
I don't think that's tomato juice.
Tomatoes! Bad! Corey, why did you invite these guys over?
I don't know. I thought it might be fun. I mean, these are some real classic monsters, and they're in our podcasting studio right now.
Yeah, eating our food and killing our interns we apparently have.
Hey, I know what will cheer you up and distract you from the crime scene behind us. Why don't we start the podcast?
Hi, I'm Maddie.
And I'm Corey. And this is Hallow-Holics Anonymous, a show dedicated to all things horror and occasionally Halloween.
So before we launch into October, we've got a fairly simple, kind of lighthearted monster movie to follow up on our Japanese hardcore corpse party Akira episode.
That was very descriptive.
Yeah, I know. So this is just all about the monsters, baby. The little ones, the big ones, all of them.
Little ones fighting the big ones.
Mm-hmm. The little kids fighting the big monsters, the big adults fighting the little
fighting
monsters.
the big kids.
Yeah, it's just...
Big monsters fighting medium size.
It's a real hootenanny.
A tiny monster hootenanny.
That sounds gross.
It made me want to go into... It almost made the Gremlins come back out, but I held it together.
We already told them they are not allowed to come back.
Oh, they're
not until they learn some table manners.
They are banned, those little monsters.
Seriously.
Little monsters. Oh, that would have fit in this episode, too.
Oh, I love little monsters.
We are lacking in Fred Savage and Howie Mandel.
Yes, it's a crime.
I know, it really
Guys,
is.
bring back Fred Savage and Howie Mandel, the power duo.
What?
I don't know.
Oh, you mean together. I was going to say,
yes.
Well, they're still kind of doing stuff, aren't they?
Yeah, they're both doing pretty well for themselves, honestly.
Yeah.
They got pretty solid careers. I mean, they're not, big names like, I guess, old Bill Murray, who everyone sees in the street somewhere. He tells them that no one will believe them. Or like Tom Hanks, America's sweetheart.
Howie Mandel has the smoothest head I've ever seen.
And he used to have the curliest hair.
Yeah, but and I get it. He shaves his head because he's balding. I got to do the same thing. But I don't understand, my head is there's always a trace of hair on my head. Howie Mandel's got nothing.
Do you think he was in a taxi driver scenario when he decided to shave his head? Or
No, I think he's just I'm getting old. I'm just going to get rid of it.
G.I. Jane, maybe?
But what I want to know is how he gets it so soft looking. It just feels like all that's up there is flesh,
Maybe he lost his hair.
No, that's what I'm sure he did. But what I'm saying is you don't just lose all your hair. It doesn't all go. You know what I mean? You still have some. But you don't even see traces of that some hair on him. It's just nothing. It's like he got full head electrolysis or something.
Guys, tweet at Howie Mandel that we'd like him to be a podcast guest on our show so he can tell us exactly how he gets his head so smooth.
His head is it probably feels like a baby's belly.
And that is so relevant to today's episode.
Sorry.
Which we're recording on September 16th.
2019.
Mm-hmm.
I figure if we're saying dates, we might as well go for broke.
Mm-hmm.
Also, on this day in horror history.
It was honestly a pretty light horror history, but Sheb Woolley, who, Wooly Wooly, Wooly Bully, all that, he wrote Purple People. Who wrote Purple People Eater, passed away. And
that song is dope.
Yeah. And Gene Nelson, who directed Hand of Death, also died.
I wouldn't eat you because you're so tough. He was
and the Invisible Man. Yeah.
Purple people eater. And that was on this day in horror history.
It's going to be a pretty light episode because you picked the good movie this week.
Oh my god, and you picked the worst movie on the planet.
Yeah. And normally, I pick the good movie because I'm the one who does all the behind-the-scenes stuff, and you talk about the story more.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to talk much about behind-the-scenes stuff on mine this week.
I think that's for the best.
Yeah. But before we launch into that, what else should we do today?
Oh, the game.
Yeah, we should do the game. Would you like to tell the listeners, if you remember it all, you don't normally, what the game is?
I don't remember any of it. I know I really like the idea.
Oh, okay. This game is called Monster Party, and you have to come up with the ideal party guest list, 5 monsters or horror movie characters, to just get your party jumping. And Crispin Glover from Friday the 13th part, is it 4?
Sure. I can't remember. I know that's a sin, but...
Yeah, is a given, so he's the mysterious 6th house guest, because we know we have to have him.
So
as the
he's
dancer.
just there, so neither of us pick him as a crutch.
Exactly. So
what if I just picked a whole bunch of different... could I have
No,
Will
we already
Crispin
did that
Glover?
with our biker gang.
Oh, that's true.
Which is the best biker gang on the planet, but this is about a party list. So I'm enacting the Crispin rule. The new Crispin rule we have is rule 1, Crispin's always there, so you can't use him.
We should probably make that a blanket rule.
Okay.
For everything, because we really do lean on Crispin Glover, and to a lesser extent at this point, Scott Valentine. He has unfortunately kind of fallen out of favor with the podcast, not on purpose. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we don't talk to the poor guy as much. Talk about the poor guy, talk to him. Oh yeah, I see him every day. We still cherish him, but Crispin Glover is always there. Scott Valentine just saves the world. True. Has Crispin Glover ever saved the world? Well, he did help the Angels in the end of that second Charlie's Angels movie. Well, he helped create Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future, Marty McFly, so in a way he did save the world. Very good point. I love how the moral at the end of part 3 is the doc actually decides it's totally cool to screw around with history, and he makes an even bigger time machine. Well, as we're going to find out in Monster Squad, the 80s kind of, if you take the 80s advice, you don't end up a good person. Okay. And with that in mind, Corey, who's the first member of your party list? Oh, the first member of my party list. The first monster I would invite to our party. Wow, my mind just completely blanked out. How about... No. I was going to say Ghostface, but that would just end poorly way too fast. Dude, Ghostface is the dick no one wants at their party. I think we all know it. Exactly. We need, a slow build. We don't really want people... we couldn't do, a Victor Crowley. We don't want anybody in there that's immediately going to just start murdering. We want at least, the sort of cat and mouse people. So, you know what? I think I'm going to invite Leslie Vernon. Okay, I like that. Yeah, because, he's very likable. Great conversationalist, knows his wheelhouse and is willing to talk about it. Yeah, I think he'd be a good guest. Now, I feel like mine is a little bit more obvious, maybe too on the nose, on the brain, on the hacksaw, whatever. But I feel like if you need someone to really bring some class to a party, entertainment, conversation, intellectualism, you can't have a good dinner party without Hannibal Lecter. I thought you were going to go with Leatherface, and this was just a big elaborate, I'm going to invite this hoity-toity murderous hillbilly who wears people's faces. But you surprised me. Yeah. By not going that route. Yeah, I would probably punch him in the face, though. What? Hannibal Lecter, really? He's such a pretentious asshole. But he's smart, and he knows he's smart. That's why you don't like him. Well, I'm smart, and I know I'm smart, but I'm not an asshole. Well, I also have this terrible memory that sort of tempers any possible ego I could have about being smart. Okay, well, you know what? He's my party guest, so you just have to put up with him. Who's your second party guest? We're already fighting. This is not good. All right, my second party guest. Do they have to be horror?
No, they don't, but this is a horror podcast.
True. I mean, I'm not going to get too far away.
Yeah, okay. Who is it?
I think I want to invite Bill Paxton from Aliens.
All right, yeah. I can dig it. I can get behind that.
Yeah, because he'd be sort of like a double, what was his character's name in that? Do you remember?
Oh, I don't remember, but yeah, he seems like he'd be fun at a party.
Yeah, I agree. So anyway, here's why. Because you've got like the double thing where he'd be the kind of dude who would just get wasted and be super fun and crazy all night. Mm-hmm. And then when the murders started popping off, he would just completely melt down and go into like, game over, man, game over mode. And so you could laugh at him because he's all cowardly all of a sudden. And then when you need him, he's okay because he's really brave.
I think I would.
So get like everything from him.
Yeah. I think I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And also I felt obligated to invite Vincent Price. Not any of the characters he ever played, but just Vincent Price.
I think he would fit in fine as just normal him. Is he your next one then?
Yes, he's my second.
Yeah, see, I think he'd be on my side about like disliking Hannibal Lecter. So me and Vincent Price, Vinny as I call him, I think him and I would be like, man, screw this Lecter guy. Let's just go over here and drink some whiskey and talk about books.
Well, be careful about that because he was a swinger.
You know, I will make certain exceptions for men like Vincent Price. He can be on my Tom Hardy list.
Okay. Who's your third?
My third. You know, I wanted to bring it back to Little Monsters and go with the monster played by Howie Mandel, but again, why do I keep wanting to invite the most irritating people I can think of?
I have no idea. The people who definitely will not clean up after themselves when the party is over.
No, for sure. I think we need to get weird.
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely need to get weird. So I want to invite, and this is sort of like party entertainment too. I think I want some of the killer clowns from outer space to be there, dude.
Oh, nice. You're counting them all as one guest?
Well, not real. I'm counting them more as the entertainment. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I mean, if you want me to invite a specific one, the balloon animal one.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like the little one too, though. The one who knocks the block off and rides the little bike.
Cool. Yeah, he was really cute.
Botcha boop. All right. Well, my third guest, just to temper the classiness of the atmosphere, someone who, down to the earth, you know, just someone who can just be anyone you want them to be, right?
Right.
Ernest, God, no. I think I would hang out with Ernest. I think Ernest would be cool. He would be relatable. He might be a little bit irritating, but I can get down with that. Even if he turns into random men and women like throughout this conversation with you.
Yeah, I think I can handle that okay. Personally though, my summer camp has the handyman for my summer camp is a huge Ernest fan, and every year he brings his entire collection of Ernest movies, and I'll usually let him we'll have movie night every night when the campers go to bed, almost every night, and I'll usually let him do one Ernest movie. But when I let him do one Ernest movie, it just becomes an entire summer of like, let's watch this Ernest movie, and this and this and this. Look at my Ernest puppet that I made in like 5 years ago or whatever. So
holy wow.
Ernest is difficult for me, but yeah, I think that's good.
All right. Who is your fourth party guest?
Oh, I'm glad you're keeping count.
Mm-hmm.
We have a severe lack of women, so I'm going to go...
Yeah, there is.
My old standby, and I'm going to go with Trash from Return of the Living Dead.
Oh, well, I wonder why you would invite her to the party.
Because she seems nice.
Because she seems nice? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Very friendly, social, open, very open.
Yeah. Well, technically... They made her wear a prosthetic, so she's very much closed. It was like Barbie doll closed.
Well, if you're inviting her, then I'm inviting Angela from Night of the Demons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, so we really get someone on the dance floor with Crispin Glover.
Mm-hmm. And they're bringing some really good records.
Exactly. I don't care what people say. That song track, the way it's played in that film at that moment is perfect.
Wait, which are we talking? Are we talking about Night of the Demons?
Yes.
Yeah, that's Bauhaus, man. That is the absolute perfect execution of a song by Bauhaus. In it, well, the only other time Bauhaus has been used just as well is Bela Lugosi's Dead in the beginning of The Hunger.
The Hunger is
with
awesome.
Peter Murphy like dancing in the cage. Yeah, it's so great.
And the moment when that character just has that, it starts with confusion, then intrigue, and then horror and confusion again. Like his emotions he goes through as that Bauhaus plays and she's doing her weird dance. Oh, it's perfect.
Yeah.
So Angela would be pretty killer.
Yeah.
Okay, who's your last party guest?
Oh, my last one. I'm going to invite the Ghoulies, damn it.
Ah, of course you would.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got killer clowns and ghoulies at your party?
Oh, it's going to be a mess.
Oh my gosh.
We can't have this at either of our houses.
You have to you're going to have to just pack your bags and move away. Burn that house down when you're done.
Like, we either need to do this at an Airbnb or we need to rent a place with an ironclad, like, security deposit. This needs to be one of those deals where, like, you rent a car and you get that insurance that means if you just get bored and set the car on fire, you don't have to pay for it because you got the special insurance. We need that on whatever venue we have this party at.
Yeah, exactly. My fifth guest has to be someone pretty incredible. Someone who maybe doesn't have the class and the brilliance of Hannibal Lecter and Vincent Price, or the sheer sexual magnetism of Crispin Glover and Angela.
And Trash.
And Trash.
And me.
Who was my third guest? I had Vincent Price, I had Hannibal Lecter, I had Angela, and I had...
Ernest.
I had Ernest. So someone who
so weird when you hear them all listed off.
Someone to bring it all together. Frankenhooker.
Want a date? Every time somebody says that, I do that. Yeah, I think she'd make it a little weird. Like, not good weird.
Not good weird?
No, because she would just stand around with that weird look on her face.
And you know what? Her and Trash would probably have something to talk about.
Maybe. But if Trash is talking to her, she's not talking to me. But I can talk to Vincent Price, so that's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we good.
Actually, you know what? I changed my mind. Kermit the Frog.
Oh, that poor little guy. He'd be horrified.
Him and Vincent Price are friends.
Okay, he'd be horrified, confused, and being held by Vincent Price while the poor little guy is shaking in fear for his life.
He just turns the head. Turns his head again.
Normally, I'm the terrible one, but you're scarring a treasured puppet, like the hero of children since the 70s up until through today. You're scarring that for life. You're destroying a childhood icon. So I'm okay with that, but are you?
So list your party guests real quick for me.
Trash, Bill Paxton from Aliens, the Killer Clowns, Ghoulies, and Leslie Vernon.
And I've got Hannibal Lecter, Vincent Price, Ernest, Angela, and Kermit the Frog. And the guest of honor for both of us is Crispin Glover.
Of course. Oh, God.
This is a very strange party.
It really is, but it's a party I'd like to go to.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like there's definitely going to be a fight. Who fights? Like, who gets into a fight at this party?
Well, it wouldn't be Vincent Price unless it's a fight with words. And he'd cut you.
I don't know. I feel like he might slap Hannibal Lecter.
Vincent Price never slaps.
Well, I think Vincent Price would slap Hannibal. He'd do some fava bean nonsense.
He might poison
and Vincent
him.
Price would be like, ooh, maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I really like the idea of Vincent Price just slapping someone just once.
Why do you want to see Vincent Price? Like, he's a classy man.
Be classy and slap people. Look at every movie made in the early 20th century. They're always slapping people.
It's women slapping people.
Mm?
You know what? Yeah, I'll give you like a full, like a really good punch. Because I'd like to see him like just right hook someone.
Do you think he fights that old-timey way where he puts his fists out in front of him and like moves them in small circles?
Do I think he was trained in basic boxing skills? Yes.
All right, fair enough. I love this party. Why can't we live in this world we create?
I know. Poor Kermit.
Seriously.
But there's another world we should probably talk about.
The world of the Monster Squad.
You know who to call when you have ghosts. But who do you call when you have monsters?
That song is from Fright Night.
Squad.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's like Miami Vice.
Which is funny because the actor who plays the Wolfman is in Fright Night too.
Naughty virgin.
They're a bit
disorganized. He plays the not Wolfman.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't know that, sir.
But in this one he plays the Wolfman.
Guys do not get up and walk away by themselves.
But when strange things start
This
happening,
movie's great.
There's a monster in my closet.
I was so happy watching it again.
It just brings your childhood back, you know?
What's happening? You ain't a werewolf.
Silver bullet?
they're the only ones.
Mommy
ready
came
to
in my
do battle.
house.
He's out there and he's killing people. And if it's monsters, nobody's gonna do a thing about it but us.
He was a pretty good Dracula.
Real monsters?
Like, totally chill with killing children. So.
Yeah, he was ruthless, and he was like just the perfect amount of scenery chewing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can be like...
And of course, Frankenstein, the monster was perfect. They were all great.
A nature squad.
Full good.
The book is right. Don't you think it's all true?
Gillman's costume.
You guys.
They won't see.
Oh, did they torture that poor kid, though? I have something to say about it later.
The Monster Squad.
I can't believe they wasted the Wolfman Has Nards in the trailer. I didn't remember that. Man, the trailer just reminded me that this movie is so good at setting up jokes and then just knocking them down later on in the movie. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but who's the cool kid? Rudy?
Rudy, who, elementary school, middle school, even high school, I had the biggest crush on him.
I can understand that. I thought he was super cool when I was a kid, and now that I'm an adult, I don't think he's super cool anymore.
Well, he's cool in a different way as an adult.
No.
Dude, he's basically the only one who really does any shit.
Oh, that's a good point. Oh, no, you're right. He is pretty badass when he's going after the brides. That is pretty awesome.
Yeah, he pretty much did most of the hard work. They're, writing bad letters and sending out flyers, and he's stealing bows and arrows and making silver bullets.
Yeah.
Just mistakes.
So when they're giving him his monster test in the clubhouse in the beginning of the movie, they're asking, how do you kill a werewolf? And he's like, silver bullets. There's no other way. And they're listing off possible ways just to sound like they know what they're saying. And Sean says, blow him up and throw him out a window. And what do they do later?
Yeah.
They blow him up and throw him out a window. Like, they set that joke up like an hour before they dropped the punchline. It was so great.
And they were wrong.
Mm-hmm. That was such a cool scene, too, with the parts just pulling back together. I am way ahead of myself.
Yeah.
So I don't think I need to summarize the Monster Squad too much. I think we should just probably chat about it more, but I will a little bit. Because if our fans haven't seen the Monster Squad, again, I don't know why they're listening to us.
Because we won't stop telling them to when we see them at work.
There you go. Our tens of fans listen to us because we force them to. So the Monster Squad is... you kind of have to compare it to the Goonies. It's the Goonies with monsters, although I actually like it better than the Goonies.
Oh, I do too. I mean, I enjoy the Goonies on its own, but this one doesn't feel so Spielberg-y.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, this one's got a little more of an edge to it. Mm-hmm. Goonies kind of had a family-friendly edge.
Except for that whole penis statue thing, but yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that. Right. But they're not blackmailing people with naked pictures Frankenstein took of you changing in your bedroom.
Yeah.
Because you've never noticed that your bedroom window faces a bunch of preteens clubhouse window.
You know, believe it or not, it's an easy thing to do.
You think so? I know every window.
When you think like
I know every line of sight from my room.
If you have a window like right in front of a tree, you just have this misguided sense of security.
Oh, you know what? That's a really good point, because in the winter when all the leaves die on the tree outside my window that faces the front of the house, people can see in, and sometimes I forget to close my blinds.
Yeah.
But that's in my office, so I'm never naked in here. It's okay.
That's okay, Corey. You're never naked in there.
In my office.
Tom Noonan, who played the monster, was fantastic.
That name sounds real. I know I'm going to look at him in 2 seconds and be embarrassed. Oh, of course. I know who he is. Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, and he was in, he had a really great character in The Last Action Hero, too.
I need to watch that again. I haven't seen that in a long time.
I love that
Tom
movie.
Noonan's great. He's been in everything.
Mm-hmm.
12 Monkeys series, I forgot about. I need to finish that.
Yeah.
He was the priest in Hell on Wheels.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't want to get too far into him. So, all right. We open up with, God, I barely even remember the opening. With Van Helsing and his crew trapping Dracula. Yeah, because they have this amulet, and they have a virgin who's saying the magic words to shoot them all into limbo. He gets sucked into. Apparently that scene was supposed to be like Van Helsing leading this giant army. There were supposed to be airships, like all this crazy stuff in the beginning. I don't know if it was in the script or if it was in like the idea phase, but they very quickly realized that scene alone would completely eat up their entire budget. So they didn't do it.
Ah, gosh, can you imagine, though, if that was made today? There'd be so much CGI to make that happen.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, it definitely wouldn't make the movie better. I just wonder, I'd be curious. Like, I don't want a remake of the Monster Squad, but I'd be really curious to see what they did with it.
I'd be mostly curious about who they'd cast as the monsters, because they'd have to cast big names.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Now, that's how they could probably revive the Universal Monster thing. Just add a few more, bring the characters in. You've already got Dracula cast. He was a perfectly serviceable Dracula. You've got Dr. Jekyll.
I want to see the Monster Squad with Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees and Michael. The problem, of course, is Freddy has to do all the talking, so we need a few others, but...
That would be a very different Monster Squad.
They'd have to get serious.
Would Michael Myers be the one that Phoebe befriends, and then Phoebe just gets straight murdered halfway through the movie because of it?
No, because when he takes his mask off, guess who's playing him?
Oh, not that giant wrestler from the Rob Zombie ones, please.
No. It's, oh, goodness. No. He was in Con Air.
Oh, Nicolas Cage.
No.
John Malkovich.
No.
Jesus Christ.
You're like,
who else
you picked
was
a
in
movie
Con
with a
Air?
million famous people.
Steve Buscemi?
Yes, Steve Buscemi.
All right. I mean, that would scare Phoebe to death.
Yeah.
All right, so all this happens 100 years later. The monsters are coming back. They're on a. How did they end up on the plane? Did it actually say, or were they just flying?
They were just transporting them.
That's what I thought. So they're being transported. Dracula gets out and does this great like.
Getting the team back together.
Yeah, pretty much. I love that he didn't kill anybody in the plane too. That he just like. Scared them so bad they dumped their cargo, basically.
It was faster, I guess.
Dracula scares the airplane pilots into dumping their cargo. So we've got the creature, we've got Frankenstein. I don't know where the Wolfman came from.
I think the Wolfman...
He just kind of appeared.
I think maybe the curse started to strike him in the town. He was a normal guy.
Oh, you think it just happened?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you that. So yeah, the mummy escapes from the museum, which it was a very expensive looking museum for such a small town. I was pretty surprised about that. Maybe it was one of those touring shows. So the creature, actually, I'm not sure if he was on the plane or if he was just hanging out. And this town's also got a swamp, so he's hanging there.
Gillman just chilling, kicking up his feet.
Yeah. The amulet is also in this town, too, which I'm not sure about. I feel like Scary German Guy might be more involved in this film than we know.
I love that character. And I love that moment when he mentions how he knows something about monsters and you see the tattoo. And
it cuts to cuts to the tattoo from the death camps. That was pretty amazing. I really liked that. And I liked how this movie bridges the gap between generations too. It doesn't do that thing where like adults are the bad guys. I mean, it does do that whole adults
don't listen
thing. Yeah. But even then is broken pretty early on when Scary German Guy is right there to help him. Whether he believes him or not, he supports these kids. I thought that was really cool.
Yes. There's not much time left, boys. For more pie.
Oh, God, and they call the fat kid. Like, that's another thing that could only happen in the 80s. Like, you can't have a character named Fat Kid in the vast majority of movies today.
Yeah, but the young boys kids are mean.
Oh, kids are...
Young boys have a more outwardly edgy meanness to them than girls.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
So I could see a group of boys, like, calling one of their friends fatty. Or fat kid.
I just can't see it coming up in a movie anymore. I think we've gotten a little too sensitive to stuff like that. I think the days of characters like Chunk are over.
Guys,
I think characters
bring back the hateful rhetoric towards fat children.
Hey, I'm allowed to say this because I'm a fat guy. This is my culture.
That's your culture. Well, then take the word back. Tell everybody to call you.
I don't want to be called fat kid. I'll lose a lot of, I need respect at work. I need to bridge the gap between students and teachers. And I feel like I can't do that when everybody's referring to me as fat kid. God, if any of them listen and call me fat kid, I'm going to make damn sure they fail the semester.
But you're owning the word. You're reclaiming it.
No, you're making me do this. This is not me doing it. This is you pulling my strings because you're a monster. We are losing focus tonight. And that's okay because this is the lighthearted episode.
Yeah.
All right, so where were we? So Frankenstein gets the gang back together. We talked about bridging the gap between the grown-ups. And again, somehow Dracula owns a mansion in
He's
this.
Dracula.
Yeah, he must have bought it from Limbo, with Limbo gold.
Yeah. Or he'd been awaiting this for 100 years and he had a feeling where the stone would be, or...
I don't know. And I'll let it go because it's Monster Squad and it's one of the best movies ever made. But it doesn't really make sense that Dracula owns the house where the...
Why are you nitpicking that and not the fact that the kid who wrote the crayon letter to the army actually got the army to come into the town at the end of the movie?
Because I don't care. That was too perfect. That is the perfect way to close that movie. Guys, what she's talking about, and again, spoilers for a 25, 30-year-old movie? I don't even remember. Math.
32.
The youngest kid. Did you say 32?
Yes.
Holy hell.
2 years older than me.
God, am I ancient. All right, let's see. What's that kid's name? Was it Eugene?
Something like that.
I need to know. I must know.
I know Fat Kid's name was Horace.
So Eugene, when they're having their montage, which again, it's the 80s, you've got to have a montage. This one was great. We touched on it briefly, where Rudy is stealing a bow and arrow, making silver bullets, sharpening stakes, doing all this badass action hero stuff, while the other kids are making business cards.
Yeah.
And Eugene writes a crayon letter to the army. What does it say? Dear Army, there are monsters.
Come help. Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. And so he writes it, and you think, the first time you see this movie, you think, okay, he's a little kid, he's writing it, that's all we're going to see. But in the end of the movie, again, they set up these jokes so early on in the movie just to get the payoff later on, and this is so perfect. After they've already sent all the monsters back to limbo, after the sad moment of Frankenstein and Phoebe, we got to talk a little more about Phoebe, especially Phoebe and Dracula in a minute. After all that, they're dealing with the fallout, the town square is destroyed. All of a sudden these tanks roll in. You've got this whole squad of military dudes, and the most stereotypical platoon leader, sergeant, shows up and he says, all right, well, who's Eugene? Where are they? Where are the monsters? Eugene looks at him and says, Mummy came in my house.
What I love about this joke is that it's a play on the 1950s B-movie trope where at the end, after the day was saved, the army would always come in. That happened countless time in this old, B-movie, the sci-fi horror films. It's sort of like how the trope today is when the story's over, you have to wait 5 minutes to watch the car drive down the street at the final shot. It's the same with the army rolling in.
Oh, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew it was always like a running joke because essentially that's what America did in so many wars. They just sort of came in at the end.
No, it was a classic trope for sci-fi horror movies in the 50s.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
All right, so Dracula owns this house with this amulet that he doesn't get to have until this specific day. The kids go in after their montage, or was this before the montage?
I'm not sure.
That doesn't matter. Montages can happen whenever they want to. They're montages. So they go in, and this is where the famous Wolfman has nards that you heard in the trailer, and you've seen, because you've all seen this movie. You have to have all seen this movie. Please don't ruin my faith in humanity. The kids get the amulet. Oh, we completely forgot that Sean gets a book randomly. His mom, there's a lot of fate in this movie. Mm-hmm. His mom finds Abraham Van Helsing's journal at a garage sale.
But it's in German.
That's why they got to go meet the scary German guy who lives in the creepy house. Everybody's neighborhood had one.
And of course, one of the kids, his sister, takes German classes.
Yeah, but is really, really bad. Really bad at it.
Very bad at it. And also not a virgin.
Well, he didn't count.
Yeah, Monster Squad is a really fun little movie that toes the line between, it's, to me, the perfect definition of PG-13.
I agree. And it really does have some, brutal moments, too. Dracula at one point, and I've been waiting to touch on this, because poor little Phoebe, the sweetest girl on the planet, I mean, who is a real little girl. I don't know, how old do you think she was? 7, 6?
Probably 6-ish, yeah.
Yeah. So apparently she was terrified of Dracula when he had his contacts and fangs in. So as often as he could when he was around her, he wouldn't wear that stuff. Until the scene in the end where Dracula grabs her face and lifts her up. The director told her, okay, when she's obviously on a little box that lifts her. He's not really picking her up by her face. So he says, okay, now when the box raises, you open your eyes and scream. And Decker put the contacts and the fangs on Dracula for that scene. So when that girl opens her eyes and screams, that's actual fear, because they just broke that child's brain for that scene. Yeah. I mean, this is what happened when you get weirdos like Fred Decker and Shane Black together to make a movie.
Yeah. I mean, Fred Decker, the artist who brought us Night of the Creeps and House 2, so.
I always forget he did House 2. That's such a good movie.
It really is. And if you watch this side by side with it, it's kind of obvious that it's his style of humor, too. Mm-hmm. We got to talk about House 2 eventually.
I think we should just do all the houses at once, because we can do horror show and in 2 seconds because it's so bad. Oh, and there's the what was the fourth one when the main character from 1 comes back?
Oh gosh, I don't even remember.
I'm going to have to do some house research. We definitely need to do a full on
House-a-thon.
house. Yeah, house-a-thon. Good. Oh, what else do I have to say? Let's see
The
if there's any
physical
good
effects in this film were fantastic. The costuming, all of that. It was so much more high quality than you'd expect for something that was basically made for kids.
It really was, especially considering the time period, too. This wasn't a time when horror was really...
Respected,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw this stupid thing on Facebook earlier. Rue Morgue put out a poll asking, has horror finally been accepted by the mainstream? Horror's been accepted by the mainstream for at least since the 90s. At least since, when was the first Saw? You know what I mean? Like horror's been a money-making juggernaut. Shoot, before then, like The Exorcist made millions of dollars.
Well, Dracula for its time banked.
Yeah. Like horror has always been mainstream. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that they're putting out a poll, but that is neither here nor there. The reason I say it is because there was a period of time where genre films weren't respected.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a push and pull here, you know. Sometimes it's more respected. Like back when Dracula was first made, that was definitely a respected film.
What?
You know, but then you get back, you've got like
It was a fight to make that movie, but yeah.
Yeah. But then, like, the Frankenstein movies were kind of on the other end of that, where they weren't, like, super well respected. I think that's why Whaley ended up making... Whaley?
I think it was...
I always forget his name.
I think it was Whaley. Because Browning did Dracula.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why Bride of Frankenstein got so goofy, because he was like, all right, nobody's going to really respect my work, then I'm going to go for broke. You know what I mean?
But Bride of Frankenstein is one of the best sequels out there of an older film.
Oh, yeah, it's phenomenal. I'm not. This has nothing to do with the quality. It's just people's perceptions.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think Monster Squad came at a time where it wasn't quite as respected. So to be able to pull off the makeup effects, especially, looked great.
Well, I think of it more.
Like Monster. Ugh.
I look at Monster Squad like I look at Waxwork 2. There's seeds of a horror film there, but it's more of an adventure story.
Oh, for sure. I'll give you that. Even the Wolfman's change in the phone booth, it was no American Werewolf in London, but it was still a pretty good practical effect.
That costume is pretty badass too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, the change at the beginning from Dracula as a bat into a man is pretty sweet.
Yeah, and when he half changes after he gets shot, that horrible beast laying on the floor looks pretty great.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing I love about vampire movies, like the ones that go all out, when you see the half change when they're these twisted mutants, because it's like, that's what that thing really looks like. That's its true form. That's what I love about the original Fright Night, too, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like, Jerry Dandridge isn't that pretty face you see. He's that horrible, twisted monster when he loses his temper.
Yeah, I like it when they make vampires more feral, like they're hiding, so they're holding something inside.
Yeah.
So Browning is actually mentioned in this movie, now that you say it. He was, it was written on the side of the plane, apparently. I didn't catch that.
Oh, that's cool.
Liam Neeson was apparently almost in this movie. He was paid for it, but he was not in it. It was just a little part.
I love Liam Neeson, but this definitely would not be the place for him.
I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking of Leslie Nielsen. Yeah, I could see Liam Neeson in this.
Oh, he was considered for the role of Dracula, too.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think he's better as Satan.
I think you're probably right, but after seeing, I think he could pull off, what was that hotel movie with Steve Guttenberg that we watched?
Oh.
The name.
High Spirits?
Yeah, High Spirits. If he sort of altered his character from High Spirits, he could be an interesting Dracula. The noise the rats supposedly make in this movie were from guinea pigs. What a weird thing to change.
Guinea pigs have some pretty horrifying screams.
Oh, and the rats seen in this same opening shot are actually armadillos. That's strange.
That is weird.
So I would like to talk about not really things I dislike about this movie, just things that happen in this movie that were pretty common in 80s movies that always make me feel a little gross. Like we touched on it earlier with the blackmail and the naked pictures. Frankenstein accidentally takes a picture of Eugene's sister because the kids have a camera pointed in her window to get her. Well, Rudy has a camera pointed in her window. It's kind of, it doesn't really say whose camera it is. It does, I think it's Rudy's though, because it starts out with binoculars. When Rudy's first there, he has binoculars, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's his favorite spot. He never sits anywhere else.
Because he can see her change. And apparently she always changes in the middle of the afternoon when 15-year-old Rudy is hanging out with a bunch of 13-year-olds and like a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old. But whatever, because he straight murders a bunch of monsters and is badass. This film is said to be a blatant ripoff of the more well-known horror adventure film The Goonies.
No, not at all.
That's bullshit. Yeah. I'm losing my train of thought. Anyways, my problem with it is they do that whole thing where they spy on women and they make it okay because they end up blackmailing her to help them rid the monsters. So that makes this whole thing okay. It makes it okay that they're invading this girl's privacy.
Well, one of them is her brother, so that's probably what normalized it for him.
How so?
Because he knew her and he was her brother. So probably to her, it didn't really feel like she was being violated. It felt like her brother was being a little asshole.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was Eugene. That was the little kid.
No, the
oh
friend.
no, it's the sidekick. Yeah. I'm sorry. He was jumping to look at his sister's boobs too in that scene when Frankenstein had. I think that's why I keep convincing myself that Eugene's her brother, because Rudy's the only one not jumping at the picture, and I don't want to think of that other kid like trying to.
Maybe he was trying to get the picture away.
Maybe. Let's believe that. That makes me feel better than some creepy 4chan stuff that could actually be happening there. So, speaking of all this, she's blackmailed into reading the words from the book to banish the monsters back to limbo. But, of course, she is not a virgin. So they end up making poor Phoebe do it. And this is where you get the scene with Dracula lifting her up. And it's so cute having scary German guy tell her what to say and her saying, like, I don't know if they rehearsed that a bunch of times or if that kid's just that quick, but she really pronounced that stuff well.
Yeah, she did.
I'm sure she had a coach, but that was really well done. It's equal parts adorable and like tense and horrifying because you've got Dracula walking toward. Oh, that scene's so good. You've got Dracula walking towards them when they're saying the words, and he's just snapping cops' necks, breaking arms. Oh, it's so good. And he's just this unstoppable force. It's making me tense just thinking about it again.
It's a great climactic scene. I do wonder how Van Helsing knew how to give a thumbs up. I don't think that was a common gesture in the 1800s.
I don't know. Let's find out.
No, let's not bother to find out.
According to LiveScience.com, the earliest known use of a thumbs up dates back more than 2,000 years, all the way back to ancient Rome. Historians say that Romans had a popular phrase that went pollice verso, which is Latin for with a turned thumb. So there you go. He could have done it. What I wonder is, has he just been chilling at the spot where he thinks that the opening to Limbo is going to show up, just waiting in case he needs to pull Dracula back in, because apparently Dracula's unkillable in this one.
Van Helsing is the most committed, monster hunter in history. You damn right he was hanging out in that limbo spot.
He just had like a little camp there, a little pup tent. Mm-hmm. He's just been living in limbo, eating cans of beans heated straight from the can on this little fire.
Yes.
In the middle of nowhere.
And probably little Vienna sausages.
Probably. Every once in a while, the wind picks up. He's like, huh? Is it? Oh. Just goes back to his beans. All sad.
And then when he finally gets his chance, he just hams it up.
Mm-hmm. Again, I've got to come back to Phoebe because she's absolutely adorable. There's another very famous scene that I almost forgot about here. When Phoebe first meets Frankenstein's monster, she's sitting by the side of the lake, which is mimicking Frankenstein's original scene when he ends up murdering the little girl.
On accident.
Mm-hmm. According to some. So yeah, this movie's full of little references like that. There's there's an homage to Lon Chaney in there. Chaney College is on the map when they're looking for Shadowbrook Road.
I think science is cool. I really dig it, man. I'm sorry, I just remembered that teacher's line at the beginning, and it was just so stupid.
That is so cringy that like every time I see it, it just erases straight out of my head. Like it's just gone. Like I have amnesia from that scene. It's so cringy.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. They never call the creature from the Black Lagoon. I didn't even realize that when you called him Gillman earlier, but he is just known as Gillman.
Yeah, that's his name. You didn't know that?
I didn't, not until just now.
Oh, the more you know. You're like, what shit is she talking about, Gillman? He's the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Well, no, I knew that's who you were referencing. I just wasn't sure. Like, do you think that was a copyright thing? Or they just didn't? I don't know.
Well, they didn't really focus on him.
No, they really didn't.
But no, he's called Gillman. That's the official name of the character.
Okay. All right, so before I wrap it up, I do want to say one more thing. As irritating as it is, and as 80s as it is that Fat Kid is called Fat Kid, he does have a great moment involving Gillman. So, town square is getting destroyed. Rudy's killing everything.
Yeah.
He's up fighting with the Wolfman and Dracula. Wow, Rudy even kills Wolfman. Dad didn't even kill
Rudy does all the work of killing.
He straight murders every monster in that movie that he can, except for Gillman, because Fat Kid gets Gillman. And it's so great because in the beginning when we're introduced to Fat Kid and Rudy's actually saving Fat Kid from these two bullies who knock his chocolate bar out of his hands. Rudy comes over and makes one of the bullies eat it. Mm-hmm. So later on, these bullies are seen hiding in just like a candy store, a comic book store, like a malt shop. I don't know what they did in the 80s. I forget.
You grew up in the 80s.
But I also don't remember my childhood.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, they're hiding out in this storefront, and they've locked the door, and Fat Kid's trying to get in. They won't let him in. The creature, Gillman. My name is Gillman. Please call me Gillman. So Gillman jumps out of the sewer, fights with a bunch of cops, kills a bunch of cops, and Fat Kid grabs the shotgun, and Gillman's coming towards him at the door. They won't let him in. Fat Kid straight murders Gillman. Just shoots him point blank in the chest with a shotgun. That's all it takes to kill Gillman. He's dead. He's out of it.
Honestly, it was pretty easy.
Yeah, it was real easy. And I mean, that's maybe how it is. Like, I actually am not super familiar with the creature movies. You can just kill him with a shotgun.
Well, Gillman is sort of the missing link. That's what he is.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, you kill a missing link with a shotgun.
Have you ever seen that GIF? F this, and F that, and F this thing, and F you, and F this. It's just like different like splices of Gillman knocking shit over, and it's very funny.
Actually, I think I have seen that. Anyway, so the bullies open the door, and they're like, all right, Fat Kid. And he turns around, and he gets his hero moment, and he says, he racks the shotgun, my name is Horace. It's so perfect. This is another, and growing up a weirdo, growing up as kind of a fringe, like, odd kid who didn't have a whole lot of friends, who had, like, weird friends, I could relate to this movie, just like I could relate to the Goonies. It's really nice that the 80s did this, I think, for a lot of kids, and this is probably why they did it, because a lot of the people writing the movie were those kids in their own time. You know what I mean? They were the outcasts, they were the weirdos, they were the nerds. So they're putting the outcasts and the nerds in their movies as the heroes, which wasn't really a thing. You know, you had like Ducky not getting the girl in Pretty in Pink, stuff like that. He was
originally supposed to get the girl.
Yeah, but Molly Ringwald was like, nope. When I was a kid especially, I think this was really empowering for outcasts and weirdos that they got to see people like them be the heroes in stuff that they liked. You know what I mean? And I'm really glad that movies like Monster Squad existed and still exist. But if these movies didn't exist, we don't get remakes of movies like It, you know, which sort of brings us back to this whole thing. And I know that we live in the age of the geek now, and it's not the same thing. Like, kids are getting bullied for different reasons now.
I wish we could go back to the good old days when kids were just bullied for being fat.
Yeah, as opposed for...
or wearing glasses.
Yeah, instead of being black or being brown or
Yeah, because that period has never happened in American history until now.
Well, I think it's a little more out in the open now, but we're getting into politics. We don't want to get into politics. Bad. But yeah, that's Monster Squad. It's a great nostalgic trip down the lane to my childhood or
as most people would call it, memory lane.
Shut up. I'm having a difficult night with words. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to shit.
Oh. And if you say that one's a nice trip down memory lane. What does that make this one?
Oh God, I don't know. This too is a nostalgic trip down memory lane for me, but it's a memory lane that stops abruptly at a dead end that I ram my car into, and I'm not wearing a seatbelt, so I don't survive the wreck.
Darkness dwells in old books. One man will bring new life. Wow, this
it's
is
like a
so
bad
much
translation
to the classics. This is way more dramatic than the movie actually is.
Was that supposed to be the Wolfman, or is he some kind of bat monster demon?
He's supposed to be the Wolfman.
Strange
They're the wrong size, and then a bunch of I hate these trailers that don't translate well because they don't have dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this reminds me of a movie. I can't remember. It was something an Alan Smithy film, and I think it was that.
Charles Band never disowns his movies.
No, I mean the movie itself was called an Alan Smithy film. It was about a director making a bad movie. And he wants to do this dream sequence, so he's like, we need little people. And then it cuts to the little person complaining about the fact that, oh, you want something weird? You want a dream sequence? You need a little person? Blah, 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 blah. That's what this whole movie reminds me of. Somebody sat down and was like, let's make a weird movie involving all the universal monsters. But you know what? Let's make it super weird and make them all little people.
But they don't spend all their time making fun of little people in it, though.
No, yeah, which is maybe the only saving grace of this movie is that they didn't just make the entire thing a joke on little people.
Well, and if you are going to cast a group of little people in horror roles, at least Phil Fondacaro got to play Dracula.
True. I'll give the casting like everybody, all the monsters they were very passable in their roles. I think that
should have split the dialogue up a bit more, but
yeah. Dracula does get a really good monologue towards the end. I'm gonna have to look that up and see if I can find bits of it. But I'll look that
Legends. Yeah, that was a good...
the Legends piece. It's so great, but I think I want to read some of it if I can find it.
This film is a lesson on the dangers of trusting library patrons with priceless manuscripts and the value of a proper virgin sacrifice. A fat mad scientist with a speech impediment decides to bring all of the great monsters to life with a typical mad scientist invention, but screws it all up and they're dwarves. The only way to fix that is to find a virgin. But where? And that was The Creeps. Mad scientist tries to bring a bunch of monsters to life from the great novels of the past, even though the Wolfman was originally a movie, and The Mummy is loosely based on a short story, I guess. He made it work. Yeah.
Maybe he used a book on mummification from ancient times. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. So the director is Charles Band, who we have talked about at length, the man who can make something as silly as Prehysteria with tiny dinosaurs to Evil Bong 666. And this movie falls somewhere in between. Yes, he works with extensively with Full Moon Pictures.
I am very behind on my I don't know a whole lot of Full Moon trivia. I know I love Radu. That's about it.
I think the best of their stuff was from when they weren't even under I don't even know if they were under the moniker Full Moon, but it was from the late 80s into the early 90s. This one was probably one of their last barely watchable films.
I think you're right. This movie came at a time where Friday rolls around. I'm sleeping over at my best friend's house. We're walking home from school. It was a good hour walk from our high school to his house. And we passed a Blockbuster, so that's why we'd walk it. So we'd always do the same thing. We'd leave high school, go hang out on campus for a while until we got bored or we got kicked out of somewhere or chased away. And then we'd go walk through the graveyard and cross the street and head over to Blockbuster and look for normally bad horror movies to watch or something. And that's where I discovered some gems. Like, I first saw Cemetery Man on a shelf in Blockbuster Video. I'm like, oh, this looks stupid, bro. Let's get it. And then that's like one of the most life-defining films I've ever seen for me. But it's also where we rented stuff like The Creeps.
Yeah, which is also called Deformed Monsters, which is an even worse name.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah. So I first saw this as a kid when I was renting as many horror movies as I could find, just like you. And I figured if it had Dracula and Frankenstein's monster in it, it had to be good. And there was only one sequence I remembered very clearly from this movie. Now, 22 years later? 23 years later? And that was the lesbian librarian getting it on with Jane Eyre. And I'm not talking about the character. I'm talking
so
about
weird,
the
book.
Yeah, she, they have a bunch of priceless manuscripts at this library they work at, which only has 2 staff members for some reason. And
no security.
Yeah, late at night, she pulls out this, like, priceless original manuscript of Jane Eyre and just, like, undoes her blouse and just starts going to town with that book.
I mean, I do that with If Chins Could Kill, Bruce Campbell's autobiography, but that's Bruce Campbell. Who doesn't, right?
But I'm not sure I understand because, okay, for one thing, she's really, really into her coworker, this other girl who's the main character, right? And it's very, very obvious. At one point she says, do you want to join me tonight? Stay late. I'll be cataloging the new Gertrude Stein acquisitions. Which, it was weird to me that she pulled out Jane Eyre, which is about a heterosexual woman, and why she didn't get just crazy about a Gertrude Stein novel, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I had completely forgot that line was from the movie. You typed it in the Discord earlier, and I'm like, what? I know she's talking about the movie. Is she making her own jokes from it? Like, I got very confused.
No, that was an actual line from the movie, which surprised me because it seemed a little too smart for the movie. But there are actually a few really good lines if you're really paying attention. The problem is the movie is so dry that it's tough to catch them.
It's very hard to pay attention.
At one point, the detective guy, Dracula, comes into his house and starts to attack him, and he pulls out his cross and he shoves it in his face, and he's like, "Ha! Thank God I'm Catholic!" And then he runs off, and that was a funny moment.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah. I have a thing here that says bizarre that she put that face mask on for him. I'm not sure I remember what that line means.
Were you falling asleep while you were watching a movie again, Maddie?
Dude, I felt like I was falling asleep while I was watching this.
Oh man, me too. It took me 3 sittings.
Now I remember. Okay. This, it opens with this scientist or doctor. This guy comes in. He wants to see their original manuscript they have of Frankenstein, right? So she's like, you have to wear gloves, you have to wear a mask, and she takes him to the room, and she ties the mask onto him. Like, she ties it on for him. And I thought that was weird.
Yeah, a little bit weird.
Also, I was, like, really oblivious about any kind of lesbian characters as a kid, because I didn't know that was a thing. Like, to the point that I thought Xena and Gabriella were just best friends. And I had no idea about the very obvious lesbian undertones in this not even overtones of this character. And then I'm looking back and I watch this movie now and I'm like, wow, she's really intense. Like, seriously.
Yeah, she's the most bro-y lesbian ever.
Yeah. Oh, and there's a lot of bad acting in this. And you know how you can really tell the moniker of bad acting in a film? Not only when people say a lot, but when they get frustrated, and as they're getting frustrated, they get really breathy when they're saying all their lines. And it doesn't really make sense that they're getting so breathy, you know? Right? And it's like everyone did that. And I hate when actors do that.
I also, another sign of bad acting is really bad character choices, like the mad scientist guy, and that weird tick that he had, that sort of stuttered thing.
Oh, that was annoying.
It's awful. Yeah, it was super irritating. And you know that's something that, like, the actor was like, I'd like my character to do this, and the director just didn't give enough of a shit to change it. He was like, whatever.
And yet still his was probably some of the better acting in this movie next to Phil Fondacaro.
Mm-hmm. I mean, all the monsters. I know that they didn't have lines, but I think that they all did really well as their respective monsters. And I think they all looked really good, except the werewolf or the Wolfman didn't really look much like a Wolfman to me. He looked more like a bat.
Yeah.
Man.
But you know what? I believed them as the monsters. I didn't look at them as a gag throughout the film.
Yeah, me too.
Now,
yeah, and we touched on that too, and I am really glad that this wasn't just a movie full of short jokes and little people jokes.
Well, I don't feel like Phil, because I've always liked him as an actor. I don't think he would be in a movie like that.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah. Now, this is nitpicky, going back to that Frankenstein manuscript. Okay, it didn't even look like they were in a temperature-controlled room when she left him alone with that priceless novel. If you're a real archivist, you wouldn't... No.
Yeah. But again, this goes back to the whole, like, the facility itself couldn't support the manuscripts they had in there. Like, there were two people working there. Nobody was watching it. There was no security.
Yeah, why? But you know what? These are the questions you ask the writer mid-script, and he tells you to shut the hell up and get him some more booze. So, I'm not sure he'd have any good answers for you. And also, why didn't she go to the police? Why did she hire a private detective?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there was... See, now, my brain invented a scene where she did go to the police and they wouldn't help her.
But no, that would be too logical.
But they didn't. Yeah, that would be... Oh, no, okay. See, my brain just filled in the rest of the movie. She didn't go because she didn't want to lose her job or something. Wasn't that it? Like,
yeah,
she was afraid...
Stupid excuse.
It was real dumb.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but a private detective, you're talking about a priceless manuscript, one of a kind, right? And you go to a private detective. This is bigger than just your job. You know, this is a piece of history. This is something that is supposed to be her passion. In the beginning of the movie, it looks like it's her passion. She gets really excited talking about it. So why wouldn't she want to get professional police officers to investigate? I don't know. That didn't make sense to me.
I don't know, but if you guys want to read a good book about book mysteries, The Club du Mas. I think I mentioned it the other day. I'm mentioning it again. It's the book that The Ninth Gate was based on. It's better than The Ninth Gate.
Okay, a little out of nowhere there, but thanks for the book recommendation.
We need to get something redeeming out of this.
Well, no, that they gave a great speech at the end that basically switched the monsters' minds. When the girl basically, you see, she's so bland, I don't even remember her name, where she said to them something along the lines of, you live forever here, but you truly live forever in your novels because you die again and again, but you're alive again every time we open that book because you are a legend. If you're in the real world, you're no longer a legend. And when you finally do die, if it happens, you die forever. Yeah.
Yeah. Not only is that a good part for this movie, that was just a good thing. Like that would have made the movie for me had it just been a little bit better. You know what I mean? That would have like pushed it over into like, wow, this is pretty cool. Instead, it's just got this really great monologue in a really crappy movie, if that makes sense.
If there hadn't been that scene where they ripped off Christine's clothes, this might have been an okay PG-13 movie. Yeah.
I mean, and it might as well have been. Like, what was the... Yeah. I mean, I know boobs put people in seats, but like... That was the definition of gratuitous,
yeah,
you know? And I've got nothing against gratuitous boobs. I just, there was no point.
Yeah, Full Moon Pictures has gotten way grosser than this movie. If you've ever seen Killer Eye, that movie is just disgusting. So it was meh. It was, the only reason I paired this up was because of distant childhood memories of the lady being turned into the Valkyrie. By the way, the lesbian gets turned into a Valkyrie and gets sucked through a portal. And getting sucked through a portal. Yeah, and then comes back.
Like Van Helsing, that's another connection, yeah.
So mentally, I somehow connected these movies in a subliminal way. And this might be why I got a Master in Library Science degree and I want to be an archivist. It might be because of this terrible, terrible, terrible movie.
I love that. I really do. Like, I love how we're just... the sum of every experience we've ever had, like, and somehow your experience watching The Creeps somehow added up to you being you. You know what I mean? That's super cool. So I wanted to find the full quote of that monologue to read. I couldn't find it, so I was scrolling around on IMDb while we were talking about this, and I haven't read the review. I've just read the guy's name who wrote it and his title, and it's absolutely brilliant, and I need to at least share that with you guys.
Okay.
So the title to this guy's review, this guy's name is Vomitron G, Vomitron_G.
Ah, so he's a scholar.
He must be. He gave this 4 out of 10 stars, and his title is You Don't Go Shrinking Horror Icons. Like, I don't even want to read the review because that's just so perfect. Boy, you don't go shrinking horror icons. That's not how you make a movie. It's perfect.
Man, I hate those weird southern racist horror snob scholars.
Is that what you think this guy is, or are you trying to set me up for some kind of...
No, the accent you just did painted a picture.
Oh. Well,
he's like bald with a long like red beard, but he's also got horn-rimmed glasses.
Oh, that's somebody else I'd probably punch.
Yeah. He drinks his Bud Light out of a chalice.
A silver chalice. Just in case anyone tries to poison him.
So if you want to check out our blog, you can find us at hallow-holic.blogspot.com or hallow-holic.wordpress.com.
If you'd like to venture into the Twitterverse and find us, you can search for Hallow-Holics or tweet at Nowhere23. And please do. Mm-hmm. You never do, but someday you will. And that's the day that Maddie and I will be happy. And I will respond and possibly send you something special but tiny. I don't know. Because I don't want to spend much money on people.
I'm not sure the implications there. You can also
like
email
a sticker,
us at
a sticker.
Hallow-Holics@outlook.com for a lengthier message.
Terrible, terrible, dirty mind. So the guy's here again.
Of course.
He's only 4 foot tall.
Oh my gosh.
For some reason tonight. Yeah, he's not like a little person. He's just like a scaled down version of himself. And he's got his long leather jacket on. He's holding a silenced pistol. But he's just much smaller. So it's actually a little bit creepier tonight.
Is it cute,
more.
Though?
No, you'd think it would be. But there's just something really menacing about it. And it's making me, it's not really as scary as usual, but it's making me more uncomfortable than usual.
It's intimidating, yes.
It's kind of the same way I felt when I watched the end of Audition. That's how I feel right now looking at this guy.
Okay, well, you better do what he says.
Yeah, so I'm going to need you guys to head on over to Podpedia and search for our portal, which is HHA. Check us out there. Maybe leave a comment or two. All right, he just disappeared. He just kind of scampered out my window, I think.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Straight, flush, ante-up.
Once again you're cheating, Wolfman.
I'm Wolfman. That was Frankenstein's monster, clearly. Can't you tell the difference, ghost?
Do you see any room in my transparent head for a brain?
What is he talking about? Let's just get this game over with. It's almost morning.
So you remember how we were talking about burning down the house and locking it after a party?
Yeah, I think maybe now's the time. It's a good thing I soaked everything in gasoline this morning just for fun.
All right, but did we get Crispin Glover out of the house first?
Yeah, he actually rolled down the stairs and army crawled out the back door.
Oh, okay, he's dancing on the front lawn. I see him.
Good. We're good then. Light the match.
All right. Oh, wait, before we do that, we got to tell everybody what we're doing in October.
Oh, yeah, before we burn down our own imaginary house.
Yeah. And extensive podcasting studio and the few surviving interns we still have.
How does one get a line of gasoline from Texas all the way to Pennsylvania? We've got a lot of burning to do.
I know, right?
Anyway, guys, we are doing, do you want to say it?
Yes.
You're right.
Yes. Rocktober.
Yeah.
See, I did it this time.
Whoa. You ripped off last podcast.
Oh, shit, I did.
Nice work. It's okay. They don't mind. It's okay. I imagine they wouldn't mind. Henry would probably be happy.
Anyway, yeah, we're doing Rocktober this year.
Yes, we are doing horror movies that somehow relate to rock and roll. Are we going to tell them what we're going to do, or are we going to, or do you just want to tell them the first two?
What do you want to do?
I think we tell them the first two. I don't think we want to give away everything.
Okay, so for our first Rocktober episode, we'll be talking about Rock and Roll Nightmare and Wild Zero.
Oh, Wild Zero is so good.
Oh, and Rock and Roll Nightmare is a thing.
I actually not sure I've seen it. I think I've seen it, but I don't know. Yeah, Wild Zero, guys. It's a Japanese zombie movie starring essentially the Japanese Ramones. They're called Guitar Wolf. Their whole thing was they just played loud punk rock, fast punk rock, like all of their albums. Like they wanted to record the loudest album possible, so they went into the studio, cranked everything up to 11. And recorded their album like that. So it sounds like complete trash, but like the heart and the soul and the balls is just right there. It's so good. So they made this movie where it's them versus zombies using the power and magic of rock and roll. I will get into it next week, and you guys are going to love it. I'm not going to spoil it for you either because you need to see this movie.
In Rock and Roll Nightmare, Thor, and I'm not talking about the god of thunder, I'm talking about the god of rock, battles demons and hell things and slimy starfish with eyeballs.
Oh, that sounds so good.
Good night, guys.
Yeah, thanks for listening. We will catch you later.